Hi everyone, my name is Haley Clement and I'm a distance student at Chico State University in California. I currently teach agriculture at Liberty Ranch High School in Galt, California, which is approximately 30 miles south of Sacramento. The innovation that I chose to do my presentation on is called the thresher, or the threshing machine. And I chose this because it actually reminded me of when I did the FFA Creed. There was a question that went along the lines of what are some past and present achievements through agriculture. And I always talked about two things. One, Cyrus McCormick and his reaping device, and then the thresher. So I thought it was kind of cool that this came up for this assignment, just to show that what I did as a freshman was worthwhile and that this is a prominent innovation in agriculture history. So here we go. The first question is, what is a thresher or threshing machine? It's a machine that separates grains from stalks and husks. Now this was a pretty big innovation and invention for the agriculture industry because prior to the thresher, grains had to be separated from their stalks by hand or hoof. This was extremely laborious and a very time-consuming process. Here we can see an image of a thresher, and you can see from the get-go that it's a pretty complicated device, and we'll discuss the components in a moment. The threshing machine was invented by Andrew Meikle, who was a Scottish engineer in 1780. A later model was also invented by Alexander Anderson in America in 1782. Immediately after its invention, people were talking about it and discussing how they wanted to use it on their farm. James Madison actually wrote a letter to Thomas Jefferson that said, "I expect any day to receive from Mr. Pickney the model of the Scottish threshing machine. Mr. P. writes me word that the machine from which my model is taken threshes 8 quarters of oats an hour with 4 horses and 4 men. I hope to get it in time to have one erected at Monticello to clean out the present crop." So we can see that immediately people were discussing this and they wanted to adopt this new innovation. Next we see a few images of the threshing process. The thresher couldn't run on its own and had to be hooked up to a power source. This was originally done through water power or horsepower, and then later through steam engines and tractors. Essentially, the thresher hooked up to the power source, which helped run the belt. And then we had men at several different stations. First, they had to collect all the straw, feed it into the threshing device, and then the thresher would separate the grain from the stalks. However, we see that there are a lot of men required to go through this process, unlike the combine that we use today. However, it still used and required a lot less labor than doing it all by hand. Here we have one of the very first threshing machines, and you can see it's much more of a simple device. You simply feed the straw into the threshing machine, and then through a series of rolling and grinding actions, the grain is separated from the stalk. As soon as the threshing machine was invented, it quickly was adopted by many people. The very first threshing machines were hand-fed and horse-powered, pretty simple. However, over the next 100 years, they became popular and it became improved very, very quickly. Later, we saw the machines were steam-powered, driven by tractor or portable engines. In the 30s, we see another improvement that continues to separate the grain from the chaff, and it reduced labor. And then in the 1860s, we see a new device, and it was only sold for $100. As we continue through time, further improvements to the machine were made, and new models increased efficiency and reduced labor. The thresher wasn't always a very favored invention. Especially in the United Kingdom, there was a lot of objections to the adoption of the machine. And around the 1830s, there were a lot of riots that broke out. These were called the swing riots. And farmers actually revolted due to this widespread unemployment that was partially a result of the invention and adoption of the threshing machine. So even though we have a new and innovative and efficient machine, we have that social impact that is negative in this area of the world because it is resulting in unemployment. Even though the thresher was much more favored in America, By World War II, it became obsolete with the invention of the combine. Overall, the threshing machine was a huge innovation for the agriculture industry. It reduced labor and increased efficiency, and it led to further improvements such as the combine, mechanical harvester, and those great technologies that we use today.